Great. So let's start with my talk, Improve Your React Hydration with Qwik. And basically, I would like to start with a real scenario. So we are building real application like this one. Of course, we can be performant with Hello World application. But if we are trying to do application like this one, big complex application, we are basically shipping and bundling a lot of JavaScript. So if we are implementing this feature, we have this tiny JavaScript, but our PM, product manager or product owner ask for more, and we are adding another functionality. So we have a big JavaScript, and finally, we need to complete our dashboard in this case, and we add the other part, the social media part, and the JavaScript explode. So this problem, I would like to connect this talk with the other one that was in this morning about the budget and the performance. It's really related, and I'm happy that I'm arriving later than the other guy, because when you ship more and more functionality, suddenly your application become really slow. So because the JavaScript is really huge. So if you have a setup like this one, so a good machine and a good connection is not that problem. But if you are in a low connectivity area with a mobile and maybe not the last one, the problem comes out. So what's the solution? The solution is to put some loading. So the end user will load, and load. But if we are shipping something for the end user, we are selling something, if we are loading too much, the end user will change the website. So our business is literally affect about this problematic here. So, hey, we are not the only ones. I run the performance about against all these websites, and Amazon.com is good because they spend a lot of time and a lot of money on it to preserve the functionality. But Google create core web vitals. These are some vitals. I know that in this morning talk about this. These are some metrics that say, okay, your application is good or your application can be improved. Fun fact, yesterday when I prepared my slide, I ran the page speed insights against google.com, and it's impressive that Google doesn't pass their own test. So it's really mind-blowing. So the performance is not that good for google.com, and the problem you can see under the problem is for the JavaScript. So because in the JavaScript, this is at the end of the chart is 2011, and the end of the chart here is 2023. So the amount of JavaScript that we are shipping on the page during the time is going up, up, up. So that's because we have more interactive applications, and in the future, we will have more interactive application than today. Because of course, we want a good user experience, a lot of functionality. And this is a big problem because this doesn't scale. Our browser is a single thread and can't manage all of the JavaScript that we are trying to ship and execute. And this reminds me something like that. We are in a supermarket, this is the checkout, and this guy here is the browser, and we are trying to shipping a lot of JavaScript. So the browser is really overwhelmed to pass all the JavaScript. So please take a picture because it's really fun. It's really fun. Okay, so let's move on and look at this chart. So here is the page weight, so the weight that the page is in our application, and here the lighthouse score. So as you can see, the colors are literally the same, so Next.js is the blue here and here. So it's like a inverse. If you have big page weight, you have a low lighthouse score. So it's basically as less weight we ship, the more lighthouse score we have. With this keep in mind, we can go through the rendering process of our application. Let's do a little bit of theory, but don't don't have a problem because later we go to the live coding part. So rendering process, back in the day, we start with a single page application, vanilla React application. We are shipping an HTML with a few lines of HTML and few scripts, and we have a blank page. Then the JavaScript appears, we are downloading the JavaScript, and we are executing this JavaScript. So finally, we can render application, and then we can literally click on our application. So the problem here is that we have to download the JavaScript before executing the app and finally click into our application. And the another big problem, if we have like an e-commerce or a public website, is this black page here. So how we can solve this problem? So some developers thought about this problem and decide that we can solve this particular problem with server-side rendering. Keep in mind that is more or less like a PHP way back in time. So we can ship the HTML with more information. So you can see that the HTML is bigger. We are shipping the HTML with more information to render this snapshot, but this is a static snapshot. Keep in mind that it is static. So we are shipping this static, so the end user is happy because he's seeing something. Then, of course, appear faster than single page application. And then we are downloading the JavaScript. We are executing the app. We are reconcile. Reconcile is more or less the same of render. We are reconciling the application. And finally, we can click on our application. So at the end, it's slower because we are shipping more HTML. We are downloading the same JavaScript. And in this process here is the hydration. So the framework under the hood is going to recreate the state for us to attach the event listener, so the user can finally click. So we are duplicating the information. We are executing the JavaScript here to produce the snapshot, and we are executing the JavaScript here. So if you run an application server-side rendering and you render hello world, for example, you will find hello world here and also somewhere in this JavaScript. So this is a big problem for the hydration because it appears faster, but at the end is slower. So the hydration needs to go to from the app to the parent child, the root of our application, through all the components and attach the event listener. So finally, the user can interact with the application. A solution to solve this specific problem could be the partial hydration. So Astro, Fresh, that is based on Dino, thought about this problem of hydration and basically say, okay, you know what? We can split our application into many islands. So if you have a menu, let's create an island for this menu. If you have a footer, let's create a footer for this specific part of your application. But the problem is that with this framework, so the framework needs to provide you a way to communicate from this island, but at the moment, no one can basically communicate from one island to another. The only one that can achieve this result is Qwik. So you can, with Qwik, create island, and in this demo, we will see we create the island for React, and we can basically use Qwik to communicate through the islands. So we created the islands and we go on. So let's talk a little bit about the resumability. Resumability is a concept that Qwik put on the plate, and it's totally different from the hydration, but I would like to show you the resumability because it helps us to the demo. So resumability is something that brings in the plate about Qwik. Vuejs, that is an internal framework from Google, is using the resumability as well, but is internal, we can't use it. And also Marco, a framework that is used by eBay from version 6, use the resumability as well. So the part on the top is the hydration. Let's talk about the resumability. So we are shipping the HTML, the same HTML that we are shipping with the server-side rendering. So our page to create the snapshot. So if we look into the source code of this HTML, we can see all our labels and status and whatever. But with the resumability, we can interact directly with this snapshot because we are shipping a static HTML and we can interact directly. Then when you interact with the page, of course, it's faster. When you interact with the page, the framework is able to say, okay, you are clicking on this button. Let's execute the JavaScript that's needed to make the application interactive. And then if you interact with the other part of the application, the framework is able to execute the JavaScript for all the parts. So we are quick remove the duplication of the JavaScript, and also is able to load and execute in a lazy mode all the JavaScript. But how we can do that? We can do that. This is our application. These are 3 buttons that interact, so the user can interact with these 3 buttons. And then basically we can do this. So in a build process, we are producing the HTML, but inside of the HTML, the framework is adding this specific attribute for us. This is not a vanilla HTML attribute, but we can say that when we click the button, the framework is looking for this attribute and is grabbing the value. So this value here is the JavaScript that is needed to interact with the page. So we are able to ship vanilla HTML and CSS, but under the hood, the framework is able to reconcile the things and run the interaction. So this stuff, we don't do this stuff by our own. The DX is really amazing, and the build process will do that for us. Okay, so we are shipping static stuff, and when the user interacts, we are able to download the JavaScript. Okay, and the result is that if we are using Qwik for our application, or we embed React inside Qwik, the performance, this is the showcase from the builder website, Qwik Builder website, the performance are more or less good. If you run an application with Qwik, you can reach 90%, and then you optimize a little bit to reach 100%, but it's completely different from the previous result we saw before. Okay, so Qwik and React can work together, and the magic word that enable this to work together is Qwikify. So let's jump to the demo, but before I would like to show you that in the CLI of the framework, we are able to say, okay, please add React to my Qwik application. And the CLI is creating a starter for us, so creating some routes and some integration. And also the starter is with Material UI and also emotion styles component. So it's really out of the box a real good application. And this is maintained from the core team. So if you have problem with the React, the integration with React, you can blame the developers of Qwik and not someone that creates it for open source. And I think this is a great thing. So let's jump to the demo. So, okay. So this is a Qwik application. Is the font good enough? Is it good? Do you prefer black, white? I prefer black. I think it's good. Okay, so this is a Qwik project, and we have Vite under the hood, and we have to integrate React. We have this plugin, Qwik React, and as I mentioned, it's straight from Builder.io organization. Okay, maybe I can do like this and zoom a little bit. Okay, straight from a Builder.io organization. And then I created this application for you. Let me show you the application. So this is, okay. This is the main page. Let's close this for a second. And let's zoom. So this is a login. I sign in. I have my dashboard. all these components are React components, but inside of a Qwik application. And we can have the menu, and we can go to the inbox. We saw a lot of emails, and one from React Live, by the way. And okay, so this is a real application with React. So it's possible to create a real integration with Qwik and React. But how we can do it? So I create a counter. So sorry for that, but it's another counter that you have to see. And let's go into, maybe I can zoom. Yes, this one. It's big enough, I guess. So this is a Qwik application. We have roots, like many other server-side rendering framework. And inside of the dashboard, I create a layouts. Layouts is a special component that can wrap our application. As you can see from before, we had the header, the menu. These are inside of the layouts, and then we can change the content. So the part that is inside, so the dashboard and the mails. So the layout is this one. Okay, so maybe we need to close this. Okay, this is a Qwik component with a special marker $. This special marker $, instruct the build to say, okay, what is inside this $, is like a marker, as I mentioned. Please, you can extract this code and produce a single file for that. The file that we saw before in the chart. So this $, is really important. You can do, you can't do without that because the TypeScript blame you. And this is the layout. We have a header. So if we go inside of the header, it's a island because we wrap React components with Qwikify. So this is a React component inside the integration React. And we are wrapping this component with Qwikify, and Qwik is able to not render the component in a resumability way, but is doing a lazy iteration. So Qwikify enables the lazy iteration. So, but let's jump again to the counter because I don't want to waste time. So let's jump to the counter. And this is a normal counter. And we have this component, Qwik component, that is hosting the island 1 and the island 2, two islands. We have a signal. Signal is a state in Qwik. Maybe you heard about Signal from Solid, Angular, many other framework. So we are sharing this state through these two islands. But island under the hood, it's only a React component. React component wrapped by Qwikify. So we have island 1 button. Island 1 button is like a button from Material UI. And we have the display that is another React component that is going to show the counter. So we are creating two islands. By the way, you need to import this, you need to do this type of annotation because you have to instruct the compiler that you are using a react.js instead of Qwik JSX, because Qwik under the hood is using JSX. It's really similar to React. So with this, we can create the two islands and then we can communicate. So the island 1 can output an event, and then the island 2 can receive the property. So count.value is the property of our counter and can render this specific value. So if we jump again here, let's run the dev mode that is more readable. So, okay, dev mode. Okay, great. And let's open the dev tools. Let's see the network, zoom a little bit. Okay, so if I refresh, no JavaScript. I'm filtering for the JavaScript, and I'm filtering also for a Vite file that is dev mode stuff. So Vite. You can see that there is no JavaScript that is executed. So our application is completely static. But we can say, okay, when you over the specific component, please execute this JavaScript for me. And in production mode, this JavaScript is cached by a service worker. We said that the main thread of the browser is overwhelmed by the JavaScript. But if we create a service worker, we can pre-cache all the JavaScript, like in a YouTube video. When we see a YouTube video, we are looking for the minute 2, but under the hood, YouTube is buffering 3, 4, and 5 minutes. So with service worker, we can pre-cache all this JavaScript, and when the application needs this JavaScript, we can execute them. So we can click this button now because we are lazy hydrate the component. And as you can see here, we are increment the counter. So big applause for that. I know that is not that much, but this is a simple application to show you that as soon as I click to increment, only the island 2 is re-render. And the island 1 is the click event. So if we jump to the code, we are basically console log this part. Quick render. This is the console log for a quick render. We never see this console in the browser because we are rendering all the stuff into the server. So we are rendering quick component in the server. We are shipping static HTML of the 2 islands. As soon as the user interact with this island, we can specify on over, on click, on visible, many ways. We hydrate, so we are lazy hydrate the components, and then we can use basically our application. So this is so great because we can have good performance when we start up our React application. We can good metrics in Core Web Vitals, and also Core Web Vitals are used by Google to indexing our application. So in the search engine, if your application is good, is on top of the list. So this is so important. So let's jump back to the code. And here in the index, I create also this my slider. This is a React slider, simple slider. Of course, we quickify the material UI slider. And we are saying, please hydrate this component when it is visible. Then here I put a div, very high div. So if we go here, we can clean this code. If we scroll, we can see that my slider appears to the page. So it's hydrating on visible. Great. So let's move back to our slides and wrap up all this topic. So we saw the difference from single page application versus hydration versus resumability. So these are really hard concepts to digest, but I hope that with this lecture, I give you a little bit hint on how the things are working in the rendering process. We saw that Qwik really loves React, and we are able to create a Qwik and React application to gain performance and also other Core Web Vitals. And now it's your turn. It's your turn to go home and test this integration, and why not test also Qwik. I'm an open source developer. I'm working since 2022 with the core team of Qwik, but I am open source, so I'm not an employee of Builder.io. And you can find me on X or Twitter And my handle is at Giorgio_Boa. And you can find me also on LinkedIn with obviously my name and surname. So that's all. Thank you for listening and have a nice conference.